everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post radio podcast. I am your host, Kate, and joining me this week is Kestrel, and only Kestrel.
Hello.
This is going to be a quick one. We are going to go down over all of the announcements from last weekend's online convention palooza. What was it? Three different people were having?
Yeah. Well, technically there was at least one other one, but it was a smaller one. However, they actually had more announcements, I would argue, than the main three, but it was all like Aerogay stuff.
So, as per usual, nobody knows how to handle a pandemic. So AX and several other people tried their hardest to make something of the usual big announcement weekend. And I only watched one panel, and Kestrel watched a lot of them. So, first off, Kestrel, what did you think of how these people went about covering a con remotely?
I mean, some of it was okay. It was kind of amazing how the little anime lockdown con that happened months ago by a couple people who have never worked in conventions before was like more eventful than any of these run by Anime Expo, Funimation, and Aniplex. And even as far as announcements, like they just had like a little discotheque panel, and I don't even care about the stuff discotheque announces, but that was like absolutely more exciting than any of the announcements from these three cons, which is amazing because it's, you know, AX weekend. We're supposed to get big stuff. So yeah, as far as the conventions themselves, you know, there were lots of technical difficulties, as you might imagine. Funimation's was like really hard to find for some reason. So that kind of sucked, and they had it only on their own website. So it wasn't on like YouTube or Twitch or any of those other services, so you couldn't use like apps on any devices. Fortunately, my browser app on my Fire Stick worked well enough to play the video on their site, but it was still kind of annoying to navigate around. So yeah, that was kind of a minus on that, and just the fact that, you know, stuff would freeze and everything would be at a different time than it said, and, you know, sometimes panels would have just technical difficulties that kind of destroyed the whole thing. But for the most part, I mean, it was enjoyable enough. You know, Funimation's was like mostly My Hero Academia, I would say. I feel like half the things were related to that, just promoting that. I guess to their credit, they had some non-Funimation specific stuff, whereas like Aniplex was all straight up Aniplex stuff, and definitely more Japanese focused. So it was a lot of just like, you know, little kind of Japanese talk show type promotions of their shows.
Oh no.
Yeah, a lot of it was cringy because like where it gets real bad is, you know, a lot of these were just, you know, promoting an Aniplex show, and we have the lead seiyuu for it, you know, maybe 2 to 4 lead seiyuu. And the worst of them was when they were like, you know, the kind of Japanese promotion thing where they're being characters instead of human beings, and it's just kind of a big old cringy act. And for some of them, they didn't even have enough content to like fill the panel, especially one of them for the new Key show, which hasn't come out, doesn't have any information, and instead of like revealing anything in the panel, they just kind of retreaded the material that's out there and then spent most of it on just like random trivia about what a seiyuu does, what a producer does, or a promoter or whatever. So a lot of it was like huge waste of time, not relevant to anything at all, just stupid trivia with the people just being characters. So that was kind of obnoxious. And then AX Lite was kind of a mixed bag. You know, they had the same kind of panels that you'd expect, but they're all by different people, so, you know, it was very hit or miss. They had some musical performances that were pretty cool, and the Studio Trigger live drawing was great. Trigger are always awesome. But then they had like the Warner Brothers panel, which was the fucking worst because they had a voiceover of the English translation live, slightly delayed after the person started talking.
Oh,
so
no.
You heard both people talking out of sync, and it was impossible to concentrate on anything, and the translators were like kind of stumbling over their words and not very enthusiastic, and it just really ruined the whole experience. So you had that, which was garbage, and then straight into Trigger, which, I stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch it, but man, it's fucking great. Trigger's awesome. And they're just like so genuine, and they have a translator guy there who's like a member of their staff, and he's like, my translation's not that great, but it was fucking great. And they were just, taking a bunch of questions while sketching a bunch of stuff, and just, super open and friendly about everything. And it was Yo Yoshinari, who's one of their top animators and directors, and has been since the Gainax days, since Evangelion at least.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sketching a bunch of stuff from BNA, which he directed. And he was like, I don't know if we're going to get through all this in time. But then someone asked about what was it? Some sort of character designs. And he was like, oh yeah, well, all of these, Astro Boy, Mickey Mouse and everything, it all comes back to Felix the Cat. And so he just stops what he's drawing, and on the same thing on like a tablet, just starts drawing Felix the Cat and all the variations of it throughout the history of animation. So, they're just super chill about everything as always. So that was cool. It's definitely, pros and cons to all of these cons. Yeah.
So it really came down to the people that were used to doing stuff online were able to pull out really good presentations, and everybody else was just fumbling like crazy. Can't believe the Funimation stuff, though. They were really only broadcasting on their own channel, huh?
Yeah, so you had to register first, which I assume it was just to keep out bots or as many trolls as there might have been otherwise, because people love to shitpost on Funimation stuff. So they had that first, and that was on Funimation.com/FunimationCon 2020 or something, which was like the site they were directing everyone to. And that was just for registration, really, and didn't really have any information. So then on the day of, you had to go to FunimationCon.com, which I feel like wasn't really broadcast anywhere, and then sign in with your credentials. And then it was super hidden. There's a little menu icon in the top corner that you had to click on, and there was a live tab under that, and then you could choose the room you wanted to be in. And that's what you had to do to get to it. So I had to be instructed of where to find it. And then I had to instruct several other people who were asking about it in various Slacks and Discords. Because, it was not easy to get to at all.
Oh, God. It probably would have taken them 5 minutes to set up something in Twitch, and they couldn't handle it.
I mean, I have to assume it would be easier to set it up on Twitch or YouTube than have their own thing. Because it wasn't even like their own video player. It wasn't their normal website or anything. It was all this completely custom stuff. It felt kind of like a just lockdown YouTube embed. It was very similar to YouTube's player. But yeah, the other ones were on Twitch and YouTube. I think Aniplex was on YouTube, and AX, for some reason, Channel 1 was on YouTube and Twitch, and Channel 2 is only on Twitch. But their YouTube channel went down as soon as it started for Channel 1. And I think it came back up pretty quickly. But I just stayed on Twitch for that, and it worked out pretty well. But yeah, as far as the, who's used to doing the panels, that definitely makes sense. Because, Trigger set up a Twitch channel pretty recently, and they've been streaming on that. So it makes sense they're used to it. And I didn't watch on their channel past this, but apparently they went until 5 a.m. and just continuing it on their own Twitch channel, which is exactly what I would expect from Trigger, because every time they have live drawings or autographs where they do sketches for everyone at conventions, they always stay 2 hours late just to get a drawing for everyone, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Those guys are fucking legit.
Yeah, there's a reason people love Trigger.
Yeah.
Because they're crazy. And bend over backwards to, like, do things for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought... What was it at one point? Somebody said that, like, streams were not working, and then people were on one thing, and that thing broke, and then they had to go wait for another thing to come back up, or...
Yeah, the only
Which
thing
one
I
was that?
experienced from that was AX Lite Room 1 on, like, Saturday or Friday, maybe early afternoon, about when they had started up. So that YouTube channel went down, but the Twitch worked the whole time, as far as I could tell.
That's
But, you know,
typical.
Yeah, all three of them had technical difficulties here and there, which is kind of expected. They don't have it all nailed down. It's all live. Most of the Aniplex stuff was, like, pre-recorded, but they had live bits in between. All three conventions had, like, you know, hosts that would check in between panels. So at least you had that.
I'm shocked they decided to do it live and not just have the whole thing pre-recorded.
Yeah, I mean, so Funimation probably had the most live content. Yeah, definitely. I feel like the other two were almost exclusively pre-recorded as far as the actual events. But Funimation, for, like, you know, voice actor interviews for promoting shows and stuff like that, you know, they had, like, the cast of My Hero Academia, cast of Fruits Basket, cast of Attack on Titan, cast of One Piece. I think all of those were recorded live, and the Funimation panel itself. And a few of them took some input from the chat, so at least there was some amount of interactivity, which is obviously the reason to do it live. But yeah, I mean, most of it could have been pre-recorded, and definitely most of it was, like, let's see, going down here, you know, they had, like, opening and closing remarks, industry panel, those were live, and then other people's industry panels were pre-recorded, like, they had Right Stuff and Viz, or the Shonen Jump panel for Viz, and then AX had Viz and Yen Press and a few others. Those were all recorded. So it was mostly pre-recorded, but they all had live bits in between with different hosts. Which I gotta say, the hosts for the Aniplex Online Fest, shockingly entertaining. Sally Amaki, I've never heard of Sally Amaki before, but apparently she is a big deal, and she's one of the members of 22/7. And I'm not an Idol guy, and I didn't watch that show, and I don't think I would have liked it. But she is awesome. So she's from America. Her parents, like, came from Japan, met in America, and she was born and raised in America. And then she got into anime and moved to Japan, like, 5 years ago, and eventually became an idol and voice actress over there. And is a member of 22/7. Yeah, which is awesome. But, you know, normally when you're a Japanese idol, especially idol, you know, you have to be the perfect little manufactured character all the time. But once she turns on her English, she's just, like, full-blown American, and she throws that whole persona out the window and is, like, you know, totally genuine. And she was very entertaining for that fact. So I appreciated her.
Yeah, that's funny. I can imagine her Japanese handlers are probably like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "No, you don't understand. This is what people expect in America." That's great, though.
Yeah, so those little bits were entertaining, which I was surprised by, because normally Aniplex, like, all the Japanese stuff is very, you know, pre-recorded, scripted, kind of manufactured.
Locked down.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I keep thinking about the fact that, yeah, okay, you have Funimation over here doing their own thing, Aniplex over here doing their own thing, both owned by the same parent company.
Now, that is a good point, because they did not really compete, because Room 2 of Funimation, or Channel 2 or whatever, for Saturday, which was the first day that Aniplex had their thing. So Funimation and AX were Friday, Saturday. Aniplex was Saturday, Sunday. So Room 2 of Funimation on Saturday was just the Aniplex stream.
Huh.
So, you know, they had their Room 1 in competition, I guess. But, you know, they had two rooms simultaneously the whole time, as did AX. So at least, you know, they had that cross-promotion there.
Yeah, it's just so funny that it's like, even with all that, there are so many services that Sony fucking owns that they could have used, and instead it's just like, I don't fucking know, make another thing for Funimation. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Sony must not be aware of that level of detail or doesn't care, because, like, you know, they already have their own streaming services, and it's not like they moved Funimation stuff over to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Funimation simulcasts are exclusive to Crackle now or whatever. Is Crackle still a thing?
I have no idea. I don't know what still exists or not anymore. And they keep coming out with new things, and then, I don't know, it's just a big clusterfuck. There's too many damn streaming services.
Yeah. What's weird to me is that, you know, Funimation not only didn't do this through their own video player, but didn't do the same thing as Aniplex did. Just no consistency. Like, they had Aniplex streaming through their special thing as well as Aniplex's own YouTube. So I don't know. It was weird.
It's like, I don't want people to lose their jobs, but it's, and I don't think media consolidation is a good thing in general, but sometimes I'm look at these companies and go, well, you consolidated. What the fuck are you doing?
They're definitely working on it with the Sony thing, because Funimation and Aniplex are just, you know, teaming up more and more.
Yeah, they're starting to get, there's more crossover happening now than that things are finally moving forward. Thank God. Yeah, any other panels stand out besides Trigger as being really entertaining or worth going back and looking at?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure what all is available online. Like, I think Aniplex has pretty much all of their pre-recorded things available online. So, like, the Demon Slayer one was like, I don't know, 3 a.m., but it was Sunday night, so, you know, I had to go to bed to get up at work the next morning. So I didn't stay up for that, but I watched the recording of it afterwards. So I think that's available for all of the Aniplex stuff. And I think for a limited time, Funimation has all of their musical guests up there as well. So the musical guests for them, it was just, you know, the band or artist would come on, say a few words, and then they would play like a few live recordings from the past few years, and then a few of their music videos. Mm-hmm. And then AX, for their, like, concert event, they actually had, I guess, all of the musical guests that were going to be at Anime Expo this year. They had them do a performance specially for this in Japan with, like, no
cool.
audience. Yeah, so they had that recorded. I don't care that much about any of the musical guests they had, which is kind of surprising. Usually there's at least someone I do. Mm-hmm. But they were all fine. They had Yoko Takahashi, who does the Evangelion opening. So, you know, obviously that's a big deal, that song. Mm-hmm. But her style in general is, like, very much not what I would go to a concert for. It's mostly like this kind of weird 80s-ish trance.
Yeah.
And she has... So for one thing, I don't generally like concerts where it's just pre-recorded music and, you know, a singer. I like to have real live music. So there was that, and it was all kind of this weird down-tempo trance stuff. And she was just kind of, you know, swinging back and forth a little bit. You know, she's in her mid-50s, and she doesn't move around like the Jam Project guys do. Mm-hmm. And then she had two backup dancers, these two guys who, I mean, I don't think I'll ever understand backup dancers, but these guys were terrifying. Like, they just had this super creepy expression on their faces the entire time, and were, like, so into their movements, but somehow their movements didn't match the music or her movements or their facial expressions or anything. And it was just so intense, and I think I'm probably going to have nightmares for a while. So that was kind of terrifying, even though, you know, the Evangelion opening is great. Grand Rodeo was the headliner, and yeah, they're a pretty good J-rock band. They've done a few anime openings and stuff, so that was entertaining enough. Also, both Funimation and Aniplex had DJs for like a virtual rave, I guess.
That's weird.
Yeah, and Anime Lockdown did this too. And I don't think I'll ever understand DJs. I just don't get it. Like,
they only make sense if they're making their own music. Other than that, it's like, what do you, huh?
Like, I could get it back in the day when, you know, you had to, like, do all the shit live and it was kind of impressive.
Yeah, back in the days of sound systems and broadcasting out of the back of a fucking truck. Yeah, okay, that makes sense, but...
Now it's like they just throw together some remixes or whatever and then, like, press play and, you know, make it look like they're a DJ back in the day where you had to do everything live. So I really don't get it. Like, there are some, you know, songs I like, but it wasn't much more than that. It was just that and, you know, some guy, I feel like, just not actually doing a single thing. Like, I feel like he did a slightly modified remix. Most of them were just the plain old songs. They weren't, like, very creative at all. And then, you know, doing his DJ moves. Half the time, he wasn't even behind the booth. He was just, like, in front dancing and, like, lip-syncing and stuff, pounding his fist. Like, what is the point of this? I don't get it. So, yeah, that was all kind of weird. But, yeah, as far as AX, I would say if they're available online, I think the concert thing was not supposed to be. So if you missed that, probably tough shit, but it wasn't that great for a concert event, I would say. And, you know, if those backup dancers can be lost to time, so much the better.
That sounds like the only thing worth checking out to me. It's like, yes, I want to see the nightmare. I want to see what that looks like.
At the end of the event, they credited everyone. So, like, which is awesome for, like, you know, actually crediting the musicians. I forget who it was. I think it was a Love Live girl, but she has, like, a solo career, and she's also the singer of a band that I wasn't aware she was the singer of, which existed before Love Live. So she was all right, and I think it was her who had, like, a kind of acoustic little setup there with a bunch of people just playing kind of unconventional instruments for J-pop. So that was nice, and they credited all of them, which was super cool. But they also credited all the backup dancers. So I have a screenshot of the people's names who I will never forget. So that was an event, if that's available. The Studio Trigger thing was great. Those are probably the only two AX things that were really worthwhile. There was let me find it. It was the Orange panel. So they had, like, people from Beastars, which was the part that I watched. And then they had, like, Idolish 7, because they did one of the music videos for them. That was a good panel with perhaps the worst subtitles I've ever experienced in my life. Like, the person definitely wasn't very familiar with English, and they definitely didn't have any spell check systems, and they definitely were writing the subtitles at the speed of the translation.
Wow.
'Cause it was just like, you know, smacking your heads against the keyboards kind of quality. Incredibly bad, incredibly inconsistent, incredibly unprofessional. But the content itself was pretty good. There was some interesting stuff about, you know, their studio and their CG production, how they approach it, and, you know, why they can make stuff look as good as Land of the Lustrous and Beastars compared to so many of the other studios. Again, I don't know if that's available, but it was decent. Definitely don't try to watch the Warner Brothers panel, because that was just awful. Funimation stuff, let's see, you know, their musical guests were whatever. It was mostly just music videos and stuff. Industry panels didn't really announce anything. So voice actor Q&As and, you know, events for particular shows, your mileage may vary depending on how much you care about the show and the dub and the English cast. So the Fruits Basket one, you know, was entertaining enough. I haven't actually seen the Fruits Basket dub, but these guys are pretty entertaining. They had a few My Hero Academia ones. I watched part of, like, a game show thing they did, which was like My Hero Academia trivia with the voice actors. That was okay for what it was. Attack on Titan, you know, I love that show. I love that dub. I love the people involved with it. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty good. But I felt like, I don't know, it wasn't quite as entertaining as the Fruits Basket one, maybe just because of the people involved, maybe the host. And then the One Piece one was kind of similar to that. Having Mike McFarlane there is always good because he's kind of the very passionate, great ADR director who's like an encyclopedia on these shows. So those were all right. I don't know that there's anything from Funimation that was like really exceptional. It was mostly just promoting their stuff and mostly My Hero Academia. Oh, I guess one standout from them, it was a very short little like in-between panel kind of thing. I guess one other thing from them, they had the Sakura Music Festival, which was, a big like event that happened with a bunch of artists last year. So, it was footage from like a Blu-ray that you can buy, but it's not very available here. So they streamed some of that, and they had like performances from Lisa and Air Aoi and some cool collaborations and stuff. So that wasn't bad, but it just wasn't like, special like the AX one was. So that was cool. And then they had a short little interview with Masako Nozawa, who is the Japanese voice of Goku and everyone in his family. And she has been in the business since the very first episode of anime on television, the first episode of Astro Boy she was in, and she's been playing every main character of Dragon Ball for 30 years now. More than 30 years, almost 35. And they had an interview with her, which was cool. Obviously, it was pre-recorded, but it was pretty great. There was one line early on where she implied that she had never been directed to perform a line differently. Like, every line she had ever performed was just perfect the first time, which is incredible because, she's like had the longest career of any voice actor in the industry. So that was fascinating. And, she's like in her 80s and still screaming away as Goku and all these other characters all the time. So she's just a legend. And yeah, she was, we've heard some of these things before from interviews with her, but it's just cool to hear. They ask about like, how do you differentiate between all of these kind of similar characters who talk to each other in the same scene? And she's like, yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it. I just see them and I become the character, and they all have their different nuances, and no director ever told me to do it differently. So it must be right. So that was cool. So I would say the two things for Funimation were the Sakura Music Festival, if you don't like have the Blu-ray or whatever, and that little interview, if it's available anywhere. And then some of the voice actor interviews were all right. For AX, I think I mentioned the ones that were kind of standouts: Trigger, the Lisa Annie live thing, and then, the orange thing, if you can stand the subtitles. And then for Aniplex, Sally Amaki is the best. So I don't think they have any of the footage with... It wasn't just her. It was like this... It was a few like expats. There was some guy who like does English narration in Japan. He was kind of weird because he had like his narrator voice on all the time, and he made
weird.
kind of weird rubbery Jim Carrey faces a bunch. But he kind of mellowed out and turned into a normal person, and they had some entertaining stuff with them, and they had like an Aniplex rep there too, and she was all right. So yeah, those bits were all right, but I don't know if they're available. But yeah, Sally Amaki is great. As far as their pre-recorded content, which I think are all available, what was good from that? They had a thing with Yuki Kajiura, who's one of the best composers in the industry. Unfortunately, it was all focused on Sword Art Online, and also seemed to cut off like halfway through, and then they just like... This was the biggest technical difficulty I saw from Aniplex. It seemed to cut off partway through and then switch to footage of the DJ playing, but they still had the audio from the other thing. So it was like a DJ performing, but not the right audio for that at all. And then it just was like a still screen of the Aniplex Online Fest logo, and then a little like short bump or something, and then back to the still screen of the logo. So yeah, that was rough. But that was pretty good for the content that was there, as long as you can, deal with them talking about Sword Art Online in particular. And, they had some messages from artists and played some music videos as well. That was about as interesting as the Funimation ones, I guess. And then, let's see, industry panels were all completely worthless. Aniplex didn't have much on the first day. They had a Kaguya-sama panel, which I wanted to like, and it was somewhat entertaining for the first part of it, but then they kind of ran out of content, and it just turned into the, here's some trivia about dating in various countries that aren't Japan. And so that wasn't very valuable. It was mostly like, what? They don't have confession culture everywhere? That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, most of the, show promotions were playing clips, just like highlights, whether it was the voice actors, the seiyuu chose their favorite clips, or audience participation, what are the best clips from the show. And, that's not particularly valuable, but it can be a good opportunity to revisit some highlights of some good shows. So, yeah, there's some decent material in that, I guess. The Fate one of those was surprisingly pretty good. They all acted like normal people and respected each other. And they had some good material in that, but, nothing new, nothing that you need to watch. They had a panel with producers, how to produce anime, which is kind of interesting. You don't get that perspective that often. And, producers aren't the most interesting part of the process, but I still care about, every part of the process. And in some ways that was more interesting than, just seiyus talking, because, you know what they're going to say. It's all the same shit. Yeah, Promised Neverland, same thing as the other ones. Cloverworks had a panel with a live drawing with the character designer and animation director of the Bunny Girl Senpai franchise, and that was cool. They also had a tour of their studios, which was pretty cool, and just interviews with the president and one of the main producers there. And they didn't really reveal anything, but the live drawing was cool, and hearing from this character designer, animation director was cool. Mm-hmm. And for that, I wish they had had her start from scratch, because instead she had a rough sketch, which was a very detailed rough sketch to start with. Oh. And then she did the actual drawing within the first 15 minutes of the hour. So it's couldn't you have done the whole thing in this? And then it would have been, more, it would have filled the time, and we would have seen it from scratch instead of basically already complete. So that was kind of unfortunate, but it was still nice to see it complete. They had a interview with Hiroyuki Sawano, who's another very prominent composer. It was mostly focused on his Aniplex work, but it was still very good, and they had, footage, either anime where it has some of his big songs playing, or performances of them, because pretty much all of his anime work has at least some really notable vocal songs that could be theme songs, because he just likes to do that in all his work. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of really good tidbits just through his working process. He's very animated, very enthusiastic, talks very quickly. Yeah, so that was pretty good. And then on the other side of that, there was the last thing I watched live was an interview with some Anisong related people, but it was specifically Satoru Kosaki, who's one of my favorite composers. He did the music for Haruhi Monogatari, Beastars, a bunch of others, and he also did composed and arranged, and I think did the lyrics. No, he didn't do the lyrics, but he composed all of the openings for the Monogatari series, which there are 5 a season. They're character songs, and some of them are big Anisong hits. And so he was there, and he had a lot of good insight to share. But unfortunately, one, he's not as animated as Sawano, so, it was kind of awkward and a little quiet. But also they didn't have enough time to get to all the stuff they wanted, so it was very focused on the Annie song portion of it. And they had him and then someone who does lyrics mostly, I think. And she did like the lyrics to the Cells at Work opening, which is, a very catchy song. She might have arranged it or composed it as well. And I think she works in some background music as well. So that was decent, but they took up all the time on like Annie song stuff. And then they were like, well, we were going to talk about, actual background music composition, which is what I actually care about more. But they ran out of time and wanted to focus on more of the, I guess, popular stuff. So unfortunately, they didn't get to the content I actually care about. So hopefully, they can invite them to some actual industry panel or actual panel at a convention to discuss that stuff. But they also had Sally Amaki as a co-host of that panel, and she was mostly there to like share her perspective on how this stuff is viewed in the US, because all of these events are all Japanese people, but she has that perspective at least to share. So that was cool, and you got to kind of see her as Japanese Sally Amaki, but not promoting her idol show. So it was somewhere in between idol persona and full-blown American personality. So that was entertaining as well. So yeah, I would say things worth watching from each one. Funimation, Soccer Music, and Masako Nozawa interview, AX Lite, Studio Trigger, and the Lisani Live, and then Aniplex, probably Sawano, and maybe Annie Song. Their panel on The Day I Became a God, which is the new Key show, maybe the biggest just plain waste of time, because they had absolutely no content. Even the MC and one of the two guests they had on there, which was the one Seiyu who's been announced, repeatedly were like, why are we even having this panel if we have no content and can't announce anything? Like the Seiyu was like, oh, can I say some things? And then they had like a publicist there. That's the word I was looking for Aniplex for the show. And he was like, nope, can't say anything, can't reveal anything. And they were both like, why are we doing this then? This is completely worthless. What are we going to talk about for an hour?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so definitely ups and downs. I would say probably nothing throughout the entire weekend that I was super excited about. Obviously, it's never going to be as interesting as being at an actual convention for many, many reasons. But yeah, I was expecting, something a little more interesting throughout the 40-ish hours that I watched of all of them.
Yeah, that's like, it's unfortunate because like, even just watching like an industry panel, I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, industry panels are actually kind of boring unless you have a full room of people yelling every time something is announced.
And I mean, really, industry panels are boring even with that.
Yeah.
And they've been getting worse and worse, just turning more and more into, here's a bunch of trailers from our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll get an announcement at the end, but those are becoming less and less because, everything's just going to be announced online immediately. So it doesn't really matter whether you do it at a convention or on your Twitter or whatever, your blog. So those have been...
That makes a great segue for the first of my manga announcements that came out during all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because leading up to the majority of these panels and stuff, Seven Seas just did one of their usual week of announcements, basically, except they titled it "Who Needs." They had some catchy title for it that was basically like no panel, no problem, or no con, no problem, or something. No panel, no problem. But this is how Seven Seas always announces all of their stuff. They just do it online on Twitter. They pick a random week and say, we're announcing stuff this week. Come back here every day for announcements. And just stagger them out. But yeah, like, a bunch of other most of the manga publishers had some announcements. The only person that I don't think really did was maybe Kodansha.
Yeah, Kodansha didn't have anything. I'm trying to think, is there anyone else big who didn't have anything? Dark Horse didn't have a presence there.
They're usually at the Comic Con anyway, and not usually at the...
No, I see Dark Horse at all the anime conventions I go to.
Oh, okay. Usually,
in fact,
I feel like...
At A-Kon, I think they were the only industry panel at the whole thing, which is kind of bizarre.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of manga announcements over the course of the weekend. Probably a lot more exciting than any anime announcement because everything has been pushed back so badly. Were there any, like, announcements? I think, what was it, Funimation announced one pickup for the fall or something?
Yeah, I think they announced a few things for the fall. I think both of them and Crunchyroll, they had a bunch of stuff for summer, most of which was supposed to be spring, a bunch of stuff for fall, most of which was supposed to be summer, and I think one or both of them had something for, like, early next year. But it's like, simulcasts, they're going to go to those two companies, they're all going to get picked up, they're all going to get announced online within the next week or two if they didn't have a convention at all. So there's nothing really exciting about them announcing simulcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, they announced some stuff. But the manga and light novel announcements were definitely the majority of it. It's just a lot of stuff that, like, I've never heard of. I don't know if any of them are very interesting to people.
There are a couple of things in here that got people's attention, but mostly because of their existence of other material or by those creators.
Yeah, like, I know there was one thing from Odasawa, and that was kind of the only thing that, got my attention.
Yeah. So I'll start with Seven Seas because they went first, because they always do.
Well, Viz went first, didn't it? Or Seven Seas, I guess, had their Twitter.
Seven Seas was doing this, like, Tuesday, or I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. They did their usual slew of announcements stretched out over a couple of days. A White Rose in Bloom, which is a Yuri manga.
It sounds like it.
Yep. That is the most Yuri of titles. Then they... manga and light novel series of Muscles Are Better Than Magic.
Is that Mashal?
It is... Is it what?
I guess it's something different. So
I think there's a lot of weirdly enough, new trend, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. Yeah, Viz has a manga currently called Mashal, Magic and Muscles, which is about a protagonist who has, like, muscles instead of magic in a world where everyone has magic, and he beats everyone with his muscles. So that's remarkable that there's another manga titled almost the same thing. Mm-hmm. Almost the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Weird. Curious. Rosie in the Labyrinth, which is a manga series about a little cat girl being escorted by her cat boy guards, I guess. I don't know. In a labyrinthian world. Looks cute. Another manga and light novel dual announcement. Failure Frame. That's a surprisingly short title.
Well, was it a manga first?
Maybe no. Well, usually if there's a light novel, it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh wait, no, they just shortened it. Yeah. Okay. Failure Frame. I became the strongest and annihilated. Oh my god.
This is an English word, Kate.
Can you tell that I've not talked to human beings in a long time? I became the strongest and annihilated everything with low-level spells. There you go.
Yeah, it sounds more like a light novel.
Yep. Yep. It's another isekai, of course.
Of course.
Because everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Another Yuri manga. This one has a slightly less Yuri-ish title. Donuts Under a Crescent Moon.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a pretty good title. Another comedy fantasy series, Dungeon Toilet.
I feel like I heard about that. Not sure how.
The quest to find the perfect toilet in a dungeon. And then something completely different. 7 Seas got the license to Kyu Hayashida's newest manga, Die Dark, which is basically...
Is that the Dorohedoro guy?
Yeah, her.
Yeah,
it's basically
Dorohedoro. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's Dorohedoro in space, I guess.
Nice.
So I'm all for Dorohedoro in space. Kyu Hayashida is awesome. And that makes me excited. 7 Seas. Let's see. Manga and light novel. Berserk of Gluttony. That's very Englishy sounding title. Dark fantasy light novel. Frail young man's terrifying magic could lead him to ultimate power.
I don't know why I've never heard the phrase dark fantasy light novel, but it's very amusing to me.
Fate Graphite. His name is Fate Graphite? That is the worst! That is the worst name!
This is a Fate spin-off?
No, this is the main character of Berserk of Gluttony.
You're still talking about that thing.
Yeah, no, I'm just like... Yeah, I was reading down the description, I saw his name was Fate Graphite, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Very English.
They licensed the novel and manga.
Does he, attack with pencil lead or something?
I don't know! That doesn't sound that
so.
dark to me. It looks like the most edgiest edgelord bullshit. He's, wearing a, black skull mask with gleaming red eyes and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea that this guy was like, oh man, I want to make a edgy dark fantasy that people are going to love. I better put Berserk in the title.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When it kills somebody who devours their skills. Yep, okay. They licensed the Ride Your Wave novel and manga.
Cool.
Something else weird. They licensed the manga series Reiwa Hanamuro Gakuen. Wow, I don't know what that translates to. Hunks in skirts.
That's what they translated to?
No, I don't know. That's what
Oh.
hunks. That's a description of the thing is.
Reiwa is the new era of Japan. Gakuen is high school.
Yeah. Hunks of Hanamaru Academy are putting the boot and booty to expectations. Instead of wearing drab blazers, these studs are obsessed with the length of their skirts and the size of their chests as they try to navigate school. What? That doesn't explain anything. Alright.
Yeah, and I think the translation for Reiwa was beautiful harmony or something. I forget exactly. There was an official English name for it, and it was the name of the opening to an eroge or something, and so people got really amused about that.
I seem to remember that happening. Alright. Yeah. The Demon Girl Next Door manga series, which sounds right up their usual nonsense.
Yeah, I got an anime a few seasons ago.
And I think that's it. I think that's everything they announced. So I'm very excited about one of those. DJ would be excited for several of those, I think.
Which one are you excited? Oh, the Kyu Hayashida.
Yeah. Denpon announced 2 things during this.
Yeah, I watched part of their panel, but it was very dull, and I was hoping that Aniplex would have some announcements, which they didn't, so I skipped out on the rest of it.
Yeah. Maybe 3 licenses. They licensed Lockdown Zone Level X, which is described as a sci-fi horror manga. They are simul-publishing that. So they are getting into the simul-publishing business.
Need more of that.
It's an apocalyptic horror story about a teen who wakes up in lockdown. Sounds appropriate for these times.
Exactly.
Maybe a little too appropriate. Under Ninja. This announcement got some people very excited. I saw a lot of chatter online that they announced this. Or, well, I don't know, what's a lot of chatter from manga Twitter? I don't know. Some people were very excited about this, so I guess this must have been a requested title for them. It's by the guy who did I Am a Hero, so...
that must be why.
Yeah. And, let's see... I think that was their big announcements. Everything else was just a rundown of everything else they've previously done. Who goes next? Do I do J Novel Club, Yen Press, or Viz?
I mean, I think you're already out of order as far as the actual...
Yeah, I don't know. I was just doing the small ones to get them out of the way.
Yeah, so it was Viz, then Yen, then Denpa. Did I even have J Novel Club on here? No, because I knew I wasn't going to get to them.
Yeah. I'll do Viz next. Viz announced, as they do, side story for Dr. Stone, focusing on his dad's adventures.
Which they had the simulpub of that on the Shonen Jump service, so I read that as it came out.
Yeah. This is exciting. Another Urasawa title, Asadora. So, yeah, that's always good. More Urasawa, always good.
I feel like his last few, no one cared that much about. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this one. I know he did the Bat one, and then, I hadn't heard about this one, but it seems to be along his usual, like, there's a disaster, young people, oh no. Takes place in, it's weird, it says it takes place both in 2020, but because it cuts back to 1959, so.
So exactly like 20th Century Boys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, gee.
Well, he's got a style.
Yeah, it's like, you've got a thing. That's okay.
I hope he comes out with another, like, really great series at some point, because it's been too long, and, you know, he keeps pumping out new series, so hopefully eventually.
Yeah, the guy works all the time, so.
Yeah.
You never know what the next Monster or 20th Century Boys or Pluto will be.
Exactly.
Tokyo Fashion, a comic book. Illustrated Guide to Fashion. Not really care, because I'm the least fashion-conscious person in the history of the world. But that's okay.
My entire exposure to fashion was that anime Smile Down the Runway. And I feel the same way about that as I feel about DJs, where they're just, like, totally making it up and just trying to sell it with enough conviction.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I could get into that was, like, even remotely fashion related was, like, Princess Jellyfish. Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. Zombie apocalypse manga. Which is about people trying to complete their bucket list after the zombie apocalypse, which is kind of fun. The illustration for the cover is really fun. It's a guy on a motorcycle with a girl behind him, at like popping a wheelie. It's cool. Beast Complex, which is related to Beastars.
Yeah, I do remember that.
These appear to be animal people of the Beastar sort, so...
Looks like it was kind of the prototype. It was her debut.
So the yeah.
By the way, I assume you know this. The creator of Beastars is the creator of Baki.
The daughter... You cut out for a second. The daughter of creator of what?
Baki.
Really?
Yeah.
That's... Wow. I did not know that. That's crazy. Holy crap, okay. Interesting family,
Yeah, that was an interesting thing in the Beastars panel, because, like, the director was there, and he was talking about, being a 50-something-year-old man, and it was written by, you know, a woman who's younger than me. So it was interesting hearing him like try to get into her perspective and like get input from, you know, younger female members of the staff and stuff. Anyway, go
on. There's another Junji Ito story collection called Love Sickness. It has a very spooky looking cover. Moving on, Call of the Night, which is a vampire story. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that sets it apart. I don't know. Might be comedic. Might not be. Hard to tell. Might be romance. And the last thing they announced was The King's Beast, which is kind of a spin-off of Dawn of the Arcana, which I couldn't really stand. But set in the same world. And that's it for Viz. Yen continues the trend of licensing a bunch of isekai. Mm-hmm. But they branched out this time. There's some more slightly more interesting stuff going on in here, this time at least. They picked up Unnamed Memory, which is just a fantasy light novel. I'm trying to see if it's just the light novel they licensed or if there's a manga too. Well, light novel for now. Fantasy, knights, curses, towers, courtship, that kind of stuff. But it's not isekai.
I mean,
which makes me happy.
At this point, it hardly matters. Like, you could hardly tell a difference between the isekai and not isekai, because most of the isekai is just, you know, the premise, and then it doesn't matter that it was isekai to begin with.
Well, it kind of does, because it's a crutch for not having to, like, for being, you know, having the way the world works explained to the protagonist, and then becoming super overpowered because you know everything from our world or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like even just the straight fantasy ones, they're just as overpowered, and especially in the light novels, they're just as much exposition.
Oh, yeah. But, hey, I can hope. That just sounds like straight up fantasy, which is exciting. They have Reign of the Seven Spellblades light novels. That made some people also online very excited. Trying to see if that doesn't sound like isekai either, so. But it's, you know, fighting students in a fighting school, basically. Magic Academy. The usual.
Magic Academy light novel is at least as bad as isekai.
Yeah. They picked up the... I really should have picked a better website to read these announcements off of. It's a little hard to parse. They picked up the novelization of The Place Promised in Our Early Days.
Yeah, I feel like they have pretty much all the Shinkai novelizations.
Yeah. Not really that surprising. Then we're back into the isekai. The World's Finest Assassin, reincarnated in a different world as an aristocrat light novel series.
I wonder what that's about.
Exactly what it says in the title.
That's the joke.
Another light novel series, The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. Which sounds like a straight-up romance story.
Yeah, that sounds very harem-y.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was thinking a different one.
It's got a demure-looking girl on the cover holding an umbrella. Making eyes at the camera. Then we're back to... the next thing they licensed reminds me heavily of Soma Spider So What, except without the isekai, which is King of the Labyrinth, but when I heard the description of this, it sounds like it's going to have almost the same exact formula as, Soma Spider So What, which is thing kills thing on level and progresses, which is not very exciting to read.
I feel like I had heard mostly positive things about the spider one. You don't think so?
I mean, I've been reading the manga, not the light novel version of it, but there's a lot of, I got all these powers, I am super powerful, I'm gonna kill this thing now, and it just kind of, I don't know, it feels like grinding in a video game, because that's what it is. They licensed A Witch's Love at the End of the World manga, which, is a Yuri title, I believe. It looks like the most Yuriest cover ever. And they also licensed Strawberry Fields once again, which is also, seems to be Yuri leaning.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And then just, Swerve, A Vampire and His Pleasant Companions, which is a manga, and boys love, and vampires. Very Jose looking artwork on this title, though. So that's fun.
Is that the one where the vampire is from, like, Nebraska or something?
Yes! Yes, it is! And he has some, like, super, like, American-sounding ass,
right.
like, but not real name or something, yeah. Yeah, the dude's name is Al something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, there's that, which is interesting just for totally not being anything else like anything in this list of things they licensed. And they also licensed Slasher Maidens. Which sounds more like, more of the same of, oh, there's a school, or an agency, people, teens, yay. They licensed, oh, Jesus Christ. This isn't English, this isn't anything. How would you pronounce this, Kestrel?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Let's see what kana they use. At least I can get an approximation from the Japanese.
Well, they shortened it to Endevi, which is pronounceable at least. Yeah. Inale and Dewele?
Well, it's a V sound, right?
I'm going to go with that.
Eniale and Deviella? Deviella.
It is from the creator of one of my favorite stories, which had Atelier, sorry. And it is about an angel and a devil getting up to hijinks in New York.
As you do.
So that sounds like fun. As you do. That sounds like fun. And the last two things they licensed were Maruko-chan? Is that what this is? Which is about a girl who's haunted. And the Overlord, a complete anime art book. I don't know how well art books sell. Probably not great.
I love art books.
Art books are awesome, but I don't think they sell particularly well.
I hope they do, because I want more of them.
Yeah. That's it for Yen. So I'll wrap this up with J Novel Club, whose biggest announcement was that they licensed Rescued Slayers. They are releasing the Slayers light novels in English, which made many people on Twitter, because that's been a long time since Slayers is out, and people have a fondness for that series of magical comedy nonsense. I just enjoy looking at really, really old anime art from the 90s on the front of this cover of this book. Because it looks more like my drawing style. At least the way the hair is drawn. They picked up The Bloodline, which is not quite vampire story, but has an interesting premise about an upper class that sucks the life out of the lower class and lives forever. And a cursed, fated romance.
Until the fated romance, I think you were talking about modern society.
Oh. It's all just, allegorical.
Mm-hmm.
The manga of this very descriptive title. I love Yuri, and I got body swapped with Fujoshi.
Cool. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, know where that story's going. An isekai title. Oh my god, which is 27 words long, of course. My instant death ability is so overpowered, no one in the other world stands a chance against me. Holy crap. The titles just get longer. Wataru, the hot-blooded fighting teen, and his epic adventures in a fantasy world after stopping a truck with his bare hands. That is the full title of this other story. I found out why they do this with light novel titles in Japan.
There's a reason?
Yeah, it's because the books are shelved spine out, for the most part, on the shelves. And rather than people actually having to pick up the goddamn book and flip it to the... I don't know if I'm assuming in Japan they put, descriptions of what the plot is somewhere on the book. But no, they're just going to slap it all on the spine so that people can just get a gist of what they're going for by just walking by, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a joke reason for why they do that.
It's like, that was the best reason that somebody... I think, that, and somebody probably did it once because they're like, hey, check this out. Let's see if this works. And it did. And then everybody just went with it.
Yeah, they've definitely been growing over the years.
Yeah. Well, this one's pretty short. Record of the Wartenia War manga.
Is that like the other records of wars?
I don't think so. That's the weird thing. I'm looking at it to see if there's a reason, to see if it's related to, Oh, no, it's an isekai. So, no, it's not related to the other things with similar titles. A Lily Blooms in Another World. Isekai Yuri.
I could tell. Literally, both of those words are in the Japanese title.
Uh-huh. Isekai Nisaku wa Yuri no Hana.
Yep.
I don't even speak Japanese, and I can parse what that says except for the saku. I'm not sure what that means.
That's bloom.
Yeah, which now I can parse as bloom, so now I know all those words, including the particles and the possessive. That's what I should just do with my free time, learn Japanese. Oh, mapping, the trash tier skill that got me into this top tier party. About somebody who's really good at mapping, apparently. Oh no! Okay, and they licensed the manga, the same thing. They have a story called The Sorcerer's Receptionist. Not isekai, just cute girl being a receptionist. The Black Summoner. That sounds fairly generic. A light novel and manga of that. And then they have Homes of Kyoto.
Yeah, that got an anime recently.
So, interesting stuff there. Good that they picked up Slayers. That's cool. I think that's everything. Whew. I haven't done that in a while. That was kind of fun. I like mispronouncing everything under the sun. It's fun.
I mean, these were mostly, translated.
Yeah, I wasn't going to attempt to Except for that one I did read, but I could pronounce that. They were short words.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any recommendations?
I should probably have some recommendations.
I should see what came out. Oh, I have a recommendation for something that's not going to be released for a while, but I don't know when it's actually going to come out. I got into the beta for Genshin Impact, which is a Chinese-developed AAA JRPG of the action variety. It takes a lot of inspiration from the most recent Zelda titles. And
yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that the one that everyone was like calling a ripoff or something?
Yeah, it's not, I mean, you can climb around, you can use elements and there's some reactive environment stuff, but it's way more narrative heavy. There is a storyline there that's like, more of a follow through. There are, more traditional quests. You can go back to a hub. There's like different towns and stuff like that. But it is a large open world action RPG with stuff to find everywhere. And the interesting part is when it gets released, it's going to be free to play because it has a gacha system where each area has about. They give you enough they give you like one of each like elemental characters so that you can actually achieve challenges. But then there are a bunch of different other characters that you can recruit. They all have their own storylines and stuff. And they all play slightly differently because they all have different weapons and techniques. Some wildly different, like you get a girl in your party who is a bow user, and you can actually have to aim and target her shots. And there's an ice user guy. He can freeze like areas to walk over water. It's all very reactive. The game is absolutely stunning looking. Everything is just immaculate. Like the scenery is gorgeous and fantastic. There's weather effects. You can see the water dripping off your characters. This beautiful anime art style. The voice acting is surprisingly solid in every language that it is in, and it's dubbed into like 6 different languages or something. And you can set independently like the text language and the audio language. So it's going to have gacha elements when it comes out. So if you want to collect all the husbandos or waifus, you will probably have to fork over quite a bit of cash. But I've played like some ridiculous amount of hours in just the beta, like 30 or something, 30, 35. I don't know. I've had a lot of free time. And I want to stop because I don't want to have to go back and do all this over again. But I'm starting to think that wouldn't even be such a bad thing because I'm enjoying the game that much. So it's going to be out probably later this year, at least the first, portion of the game that's coming out. It will have updates. It's available on PS4, PC, mobile. Don't ask. I don't know how that works. It looks like, I guess it runs fine. It hurts a little bit on the base PS4, but it just hasn't been optimized yet, I think. So I'm sure it'll run even better. I haven't run into any major bugs. Just some audio glitches and a couple of loading glitches, and that's it. And it's kind of amazing. I can't believe they're going to release that as a free-to-play game here. They should really just charge for it, but because they don't have to. And it's got co-op, so you can go dungeon hunt and roam the world with your friends. And cool. They have no excuse because it's free. So that's hopefully going to come out later this year. Because I could sink millions and millions of hours into that.
Millions of dollars.
And millions of dollars. No, I mean, I might throw some money at it just because they have like 500 employees in China or something working on this game. And honestly, it's one of those games where I wouldn't mind throwing money at it because it's so well made. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
High praise.
High praise. Like, I play a lot of video games, and it takes a lot to wow me, and I was not expecting that level of anything from that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's very enjoyable.
So, is that your only recommendation?
I'm looking through what's coming out, what came out. Release date.
I think for my only recommendation for an upcoming release is Inuyasha is being released on Blu-ray. So if you're into that, Volume 1 is out in a few days. And also, Right Stuff's birthday sale is going on right now, so check that out. They have like a billion titles on sale, of course.
Oh yeah, they had some good bundles.
Always lots of good bundles.
I forgot about that. Wait, I do have a bundle recommendation if I can find it. Show me your bundles!
I should have made a list of like all the things that I would love to get if I didn't already own them, because those would be good recommendations. There's a lot of good stuff on that sale.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on sale. Obviously. Big birthday sale, a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. There was something that I really enjoyed. Oh, they have a Card Captor Sakura clear card bundle, but I'm gonna say big Oh, Full Metal Alchemist Full Metal Edition manga hardcover bundles.
Nice.
So there
How
you
many
go.
volumes of that do they have?
There's a 1 through 5 bundle and a 6 through 9 bundle.
Cool.
The 1 through 5 bundle is $53.97 on sale.
Yeah, go get that.
That plays into the next podcast we will be enjoying. There's an area animation Blu-ray bundle. There is... I guess they took down the other bundles that were up early this week.
Yeah, I think every
they've been
week
rotating
they change
them.
it. Yeah.
They had some really good bundles. I think they had a... which had a Atelier bundle earlier. That is gone now. There's Yen Press specials that are happening. Lots of Tanya the Evil, blah, whatever.
The show was fine.
I mean, it's fine. It's not my jam. Well made, not my jam. But yeah, go check out this Right Stuff. Just go in general, check out this Right Stuff sale. There's everything.
While you're on Right Stuff, I highly recommend the $40,000 REM life-size figure.
Oh my god.
From ReZero.
Why? Obviously, I mean, if you want a giant plexiglass, figure in your house, I mean, go nuts. But yeah, if you're that rich, give me all your money, because seriously.
No, gotta buy your waifu.
Oh, your cold plastic waifu.
Yeah, man. She's so perfect, though.
She'll never age. She'll be perfect forever. I don't know. That's it for recommendations, I think. Kestrel, where can you find us?
Find us on all the places you get podcasts from: iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, Alexa, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Chris's YouTube channel. Find us on fandompost.com and on Twitter and Facebook at Fandom Post Radio. Follow us, like us, share our stuff. Get in contact with us. And you can email us also, fandompostradio@gmail.com. And I'm on Twitter at FullMetalKyoma.
And I'm on Twitter at SonicBug. Oh, good. You can get a figurine of Right Stuff of a Death Wasp. That's cool.
Death Wasp?
Yeah. Japanese giant wasps.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. They were trending, like a month and a half ago when they were found somewhere they shouldn't have been in this country.
You mean murder hornets?
Yeah, those things! Death wasp, murder hornets. That's what that is.
They'll inject you with COVID and bubonic plague all in one. Yep. This is alright, but it's no $40,000 life-size waifu.
No, but you can get $100 murder hornet. So
man, I'm so glad I don't care about figures.
God,
so expensive.
They're so awesome, but they're so expensive. Ain't nobody got money for that.
I'm glad I don't find them that awesome, because obviously if I did, the money would not be an issue. Except, the $40,000 ones.
I'd be in trouble for the sheer fact that they've made a lot of really cool One Piece figurines.
It always surprises me to hear you say, because I feel like you haven't like been
paid attention to One Piece in like 10 years.
Paying attention, and even like, I don't know, negative about it for the most part.
I mean, you know, I still like One Piece in theory. I just haven't been keeping up on it for a very long time. It happens, man. I fall off things.
I just feel like you're always like, One Piece isn't good anymore.
I never said that. I said that, like, Sanji's characters turned to shit. I don't know if he was redeemed at some point, but...
A little bit.
And the girls didn't have anything cool to do for a long time, so that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, there was a period that was kind of rough.
Yeah, there was a rough time at One Piece, and that's about when I fell off.
Yeah.
Oh, Sailor Moon figurines done up like the 90s. That's fun. Alright. Thank you for joining us. Our next episode is going to be about Full Metal Alchemist, so... Brotherhood, specifically. So if you're interested in listening to that for nostalgic purposes, or if you're like some of our people have never actually watched it before... man who's not here, who will not be named. Then, I don't know, tune in. It's gonna be spoilerific, actually. Don't turn in if you've never seen it before.
No. The plan is the first part will be spoiler-free specifically for those people, and then we'll make a clear break and then allow spoilers after that point.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, you should totally check out our next episode about that. And thank you for joining us, and you'll hear us next time.
See ya.
Bye.